bond and budget hearing. Phone's on.
Both the bond hearing that we just started now and the budget hearing that we will be holding at 6 o'clock were originally scheduled for last night. And there was some confusion perhaps about the postponement due to weather conditions. The postponement was posted on the website. There was a notice posted at the high school in the front door, visible from the outside, and a notice posted at the SAU office, also visible from the outside. Because we take this stuff seriously, we want to make certain that these hearings are done properly, legally. I would ask the board to schedule a supplemental bond hearing so that we can proceed with tonight and then have a follow-up session later.
Okay, so, what's the time? Okay.
I move to schedule a supplemental bond hearing to be held Tuesday, January 23rd, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. in the Littleton High School cafeteria. Notice of the supplemental bond hearing will be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the town at least 7 days before it is held.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay?
Want to do the hearing now?
I'll do the budget hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, the bond hearing.
Okay, if you didn't, there's a few handouts there in the back. This little short presentation is a little bit about what the work that's been done regarding the replacement of Lakeway, and again what the board proposes how the board proposes to finance the purchase of land and pay for engineering and architectural fees. This is a draft of the warrant article. So how we got here, we started actually several years ago. We spent a lot, ever since I got here, people have been talking to me about Lakeway. The board has been talking about Lakeway. The people in town, certainly the employees who work there, talk about Lakeway and the need to do something about it. And so work with this again, I want to say again because this is the first time that Lakeway has been discussed, but work began in earnest last year for us to bring the community together, representatives from the community. We asked for individuals to sit on a committee called the Lakeway Facilities Advisory Committee, Lakeway Elementary Facilities Advisory Committee. They'll let the word out there because it's LEFA, affectionately known as LEFA. We had some volunteers, we had some people who were asked to be on that committee as well. Again, we tried to reach across the spectrum of the community. And specifically what we asked them to do was to study some of the work that had been done previously, study some of the more recent work that had been done by Warren Street Architects, and specifically Kyle Barker, whom we contracted with to look at Lakeway and to give us some ideas about what might be done. And the board felt strongly that as would any good homeowner or anybody else, if you're trying to fix up your house or your car or whatever, you need to take account of what it will cost to fix it, so that it won't leave you stranded on the road someplace, or what will it cost to fix your home, so that the heating doesn't fail unexpectedly or the roof doesn't start to leak or whatever. So that's what we did with Lakeway. And so we had the architect. He spent a lot of time looking at different options. He came up with 3 different options for us to consider. Option 1 was to basically put money into the existing building, not to change anything about the existing building, other than just fix it. That's new windows, that's new doors, that's new roofs, that's new heating, so on and on and on and on and on. The list gets very long. And he did compile an extensive list of what that would cost, what each component would cost, and it was $8 to $9 million. And he said, that could be spread out million and a half a year over a period of years and fix it as you go. So that was one option. It would leave Lakeway in a perpetual state of, what do I want to say, repairs being made, disruptions, all that goes with that. Option two was for him to look at, or was to do a major renovation. One of the things that Kyle, we talked about a lot, is that Lakeway is dangerous. Sits on Union Street, hard to access, parents dropping off students and so on. So it was important to address that. So Kyle came up, the architect came up with a plan. And the other piece of it, there's some things that were really under code and under standards, like the gymnasium. So he came up with a plan to build a new gym on the back, take off the office area, the front area, open up that area so that you could do a safer drop off, do a lot of other work there. And the price tag on that was around $12 million. And finally, the third option that LEFAC looked at was replacing Lakeway altogether in a new location. So I backed up a little bit. So then the board asked these individuals, volunteers, to come together and work, and they did. many meetings to look at the options and look at it in depth and ask the hard questions and personally invest themselves in that project. Ralph agreed to be the chair. He did an amazing job. We had Chris sitting right here, never missed a meeting. We have members of the board that sometimes attended. I attended all the meetings. Crystal attended many of the meetings, but the committee really worked diligently. And then, as they were asked to do, they made a recommendation to the board early November, and the recommendation was that Lakeway should be replaced. A part of in a different location, a part of all this conversation, of course, was how much will it cost, where will it go, how do we get from A to B, state aid, where does state aid come into the mix? Is state aid just a fool's gold? I think I even called it fool's gold one time, back when it didn't look like it was very likely to ever come back, but it's looking better, still not guaranteed. But the thing is, as we went through the process, I've applied, or we've applied as a district for state aid every year of vetting it, just in case it comes back. We've been doing it anyway at Lakewood. So when I did that application, there's lots of holes. There's no plan, there's no engineering study, there's no this, there's no that. And to ever qualify for state aid, there's certain things you have to meet. You have to have the location, you have to own the property, you have to have architectural drawings, you have to have it ready to go, shovel ready. Ralph will talk later again about Lakeway, shovel ready. So that was part of the thinking was we need to get here tonight then is we need to do the things to get shovel ready. That means purchase the property, secure the funds to raise the funds needed for the architectural work as well as the engineering. Okay, so that's a brief discussion of how we got here, why we're asking again for a finance up to $900,000. And again, the $900,000 will go toward purchase of the land, cost of architecture and engineering. And then we looked at different options. And these are just estimates. They're not set in stone. There's no guarantee we can get the money at 3%. But it gives us some numbers to go from. So if we were to borrow $900,000, finance it over 3 years, you'll see the annual payment, the total payments. If we did the $900,000, I'm going to go back. If we borrowed a little less than 900, 750, 600. The reason those other options are there is that we are looking for ways, possibly to reduce the upfront cost of that. Our options are pretty limited there. So we want to at least take a look at what that would look like. So we go a little longer, we go 5 years at 3%, $900,000, the annual payments a little less than $200,000, and you get a total payments at around $1 million. The tax impact on that's about 24 cents. And then just for kicks, I did calculate this one. We haven't really discussed this one much at the board level, but the 900, 196, 982 is the one that's been discussed most, and the one that's used in the draft article tonight. But if you stretch it out over 10 years, again, the cost is significant, as you see per year, but of course, you're paying a little bit of interest in the total cost rise. So, questions? We're gonna have our budget hearing here in just a little while. And so I gave you the quick Lakeway story. You're gonna hear a much better one, much more in detail from Ralph as well. So if you stay around for that, you'll hear even more about Lakeway. But thought it was important for those of you who came for the bond hearing only, that you get a sense of what we've done so far and why what we're asking for. In case you weren't able to stay around for the budget hearing. Tom, anything you need to add to what I said, board?
The warrant article is a draft at this point. I'm actually meeting with the Department of Revenue Administration tomorrow afternoon. And our municipal advisor and I to hammer out some language that meets their needs and ours also. Want to make sure that we're not stopped because of technicality. We'll be doing that tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, one thing is in this, that we're still working on whether we can actually do it this way. But, you know, we are looking at if we can turn back some funds out of this year's budget to reduce the cost of the borrowing. That's something we would do. That's why we've done a calculation at $750. There's no guarantee we'll have it to give back to start with, or have much to give back, or that we'll be able to, but that's part of what we're working on.
So, at this point, unfortunately, we have to amend the motion.
Okay.
So I would like somebody to propose the amendment. Go ahead.
I move to amend the prior motion for the date only. It was stated as Tuesday, January 23rd, 2019. It is January 22nd, 2019, at 5:30, still in the cafeteria.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's what we're just reading.
You guys have to budget amendment?
Start
You have to close this.
Okay.
Budget closes, then wait till 6 to start the budget.
Okay. So we'll close the meeting at this time for the bond hearing, and we'll open it at 6 for the budget hearing. So you have 2 minutes to stretch.
And in the interim, Greg Filling will give an inspiring karaoke performance.
I was waiting for that. I may have seen it.
It's not all over my face.
So this might be a good time to So I just passed the results.
So
Beatles wrote a song about that.
I just finished saying, they go over my face.
How did you I didn't steal all your best stuff, did I?
Because that's screw everything Yeah, just so, that way it'll change my order. Okay, then maybe it'll change. I live by this.
When is our board meeting? 23rd. The 23rd is going to be the board meeting. That stinks.
Okay, what time is that?
That meeting, we don't know, the 17th, she's going to go out. We have a board meeting the 23rd.
Oh, wow, okay.
The good thing about it, we
You know, I walked out, I want to be here to get it.
5 years. 5 years.
I'm going to try to go to my kids'
5 year
competition,
They can always change their mind.
which is at
They change
way I can get ready. No, this is the board meeting, the 23rd. I definitely want to be there for that, especially if we're going to do there. No, it's the Wednesday, it's the new day. Yeah.
What time could you be back?
Oh,
5 years.
on Thursday? I'm not either, but I don't, but you guys, do you guys have the day off or not? You don't, right? You do, yeah. Some people.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
I know, I've got it right here.
No, I would much rather if other people take it, and have somebody else take it. Because it's really good to have to that here, you know, in case we're gonna, you know. So,
That's 5 years. 10 years. One until.
yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. When Ann comes back. Hey, Ann.
I'm not here.
Holiday.
It's closed?
Schools closed, banks closed, post office is closed.
Hospital wasn't.
Good, that's good to know.
No holiday for me then.
Well, I mean, we can have.
So what?
I would much rather see before the hearing,
I'm good with that.
unless that's a problem with the administration.
Adding off though, right?
But she said we could leave the recorder.
Yeah.
But they,
Yeah, we have
they
to
get
see.
that data in their contracts.
It's right here.
All we have to do is say the line,
But
recommend
I
it.
don't know if it's in their contracts, like where
What?
it's take data.
It's right
No, I
here.
won't be able to see it.
Remember, I was showing it to you. Oh, not the contract, no.
And I may be wrong, I just don't know if it's that. Yeah,
Was it?
New Year's
Yes.
Day Memorial.
Yeah.
Is it, so you time?
So I agree.
It is, it's, you know, it's,
Okay, so,
I mean, I know if they've already taken their vacation days, that's another thing, so, you know.
I'm open, so whatever you guys, I'm good.
yeah, absolutely.
Steve may not be here. Or Tom, how about Tom? Tom's out too, right?
I can potentially submit the stuff.
Yes, I bet he can, I'm not sure. Yeah, he's still smiling. Yeah. You know what?
PTSD.
You just go right back into it.
I've always thought.
Sorry about the day, Pat, Tom.
Ma'am?
I'm sorry about that. I said, just so smiling, I'm not sure that you're going over
When she said the day, I went, wait, what? I know, we just had that conversation, and I read it, and, you know, it's like, as I'm reading it, I'm not thinking about it, because I just want to make sure I say it properly, so that it doesn't come back on us.
I got her.
Yep,
Told her next time,
First
right
time I
around.
did.
that's right. There's no time.
I'm thinking next year.
I vote to not make this motion.
One more, just pile it on.
I guess we should. Who's really?
I obviously can't afford to take any time off. That doesn't work.
Well, you better. It's too bad.
So if we did the school board, first.
We wouldn't have.
Okay, but that's, if we can spend most of our time.
A work session.
4 o'clock on the 17th. Okay. 4 o'clock on the 17th. Easy.
So right there, and if we end up, not this year, but next year.
Oh, God, I just want to.
So that we just don't, right there.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
That's a holiday. Actually, it's a holiday, so it's stuff.
Yeah. Right, no. So, but I'm,
I can't be, it doesn't matter.
they say.
Opera House.
Or me too. But
Where?
what?
Opera House, 17th here. Opera House.
In the Opera House, in the old building upstairs, take the elevator.
Okay.
She can make
The
this
budget
stairs.
committee.
Okay.
So, listen.
Got it.
Can we do a whole meeting? Why?
27th or 17th?
They're not, they don't have they don't.
Tom does.
What's that?
I don't think administrators.
Yeah, the hearing's 27th.
And they give it here.
Budget committee, budget committee.
I don't think they do, but you can check, I'll check, I mean, you can.
Yeah, we talked about it.
But I don't think you can.
Right here, administrative.
Well,
New Year's,
I
memorial.
can't promise that because I'm going.
Well, it's just not great for me to do it on Wednesday night next night. So, but if that's what we have to do, we'll do it. I'll
They
change
don't
my
do it.
schedule. I know they don't, because I work on that.
Administrative section.
No, I know.
Here's the big
It's just
question.
not good.
And then do we need any green more? Do we need if something happened?
I probably don't want to.
Okay, make it on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, at least they did it.
So 4 p.m.
17th.
17th, at the Opera House,
They find out later.
Well, Patty. Just sit down.
That's fine.
Ready for 5.
I'll get back to you with issues once.
Right. Oh, it's all right. We do it the proper, you know, what I mean? It's not just like.
Where did my email go?
I'm visiting my daughter.
I gave it to you.
Although I could be back. I'm not sure it's a good idea to meet on that holiday, not because it's a holiday, because of the holiday that it is.
Yeah.
If it was, that's all. But I will be in chat. And if nothing else, more to do.
So are you bonded under the
So, I mean, if that'll help me out. Might be. It doesn't matter.
It's exciting. It's just the water.
But,
Almost.
Well, Kelly, I was only trying to and I learned a lot.
Yes.
Well, I had the benefit of chef for like 30 years. He prided himself.
All right.
I don't think we've had, I think it's gonna be real cumbersome.
I also understand
Yeah, that helped.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Right here.
You'll have,
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Companies recommended place that are
Did you get the picture?
We don't have estimates.
No, we don't have estimates, right? Yeah. Yeah, I I think we have to start having the facilities discussing getting the contractors in, getting it started. They get filled up, you know. And so let's get that going.
Love that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they do. I kind of think they do more residential. Like, yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. 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 Oh no.
And that's what he's doing.
That's I think it's owned now by someone who was with company. And I think it's a special share. But I'm not positive. I had would come out to give us a we're supposed to get going. So.
I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you.
Got the right date.
The budget hearing that we're starting now had originally been warned for last night at 6 o'clock. Due to the inclement weather, there was a snow postponement. Because everyone, the postponement was posted at the high school in a place visible to the public, It was posted at the SAU office in a place visible to the public, and it was posted on the website all prior to 24 hours before this meeting commenced. It was also announced on radio stations, but oral notice doesn't matter. Because some people may have planned to come last night, or unable to attend tonight, because there may be some confusion as to whether or not things were properly warned, I would ask that the board schedule a supplemental budget hearing.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion, please?
Because of last night's no postponement of the budget hearing, I move to schedule a supplemental budget hearing to be held Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the Littleton High School cafeteria. Public notice of the supplemental budget hearing will be given at least 7 days in advance.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, on recess.
Okay, those of you who are just joining us, welcome. Those of you who stayed after the bond hearing, welcome back. So there's if you saw a number of slides there. I don't get paid by the number by the slide, just in case. So I'll try to make this fairly brief. Like I say, we're going to hear from Ralph here in a little bit. There's quite a few things to talk about, but at the same time, we really tried to do a good job and give as much information as we could. We're going to come back to the Liberty session here in about a month, of course, and follow up based on some of the things we hear from you tonight. As well, we'll bring the official budgets and warrant articles and everything forward. So try to share information. Please ask questions if you have questions. I have lots of people in this room that with various programmatic expertise and work that they've done that can certainly answer questions you may have, as well as any budgetary questions. Okay, our enrollment, as you can see, is dropped a bit. It has been projected for a while. Sat just a shade under 700 back in December. Our enrollment fluctuates, and we have that's again another sign of the changing demographic of our school system. We have students that come, we have students that go, we have students and families that move in. Sometimes they leave partway through the year, and then just to make sure everybody's confused, the state uses a totally different method of determining how many students you have. They look at a one-day attendance total and so on. So these are the actual numbers we had as of the last official report from the building. Special program enrollment. We did this because there's a lot. I guess the theme, frankly, of tonight, and we'll extend into the delivery session, is that this school district is doing a lot of things for a lot of people. We have an amazing array of programs and opportunities for students. And so we started looking at a few of those and how many students are in them. So we see some of the enrollment numbers. Our Career Technical Center, almost 100 students coming to this Region 3 center. 97 of our own students taking classes here. Overall, we have 131 students in special education. 9 of those 131 are in choices, 26 of those 131 in the Littleton Academy. Little Leopards Preschool also has some students who are identified as needing special ed services. And finally, our newest creation, Above the Notch Community School. There'll be more on that in a moment. NASDC every year does enrollment projections for us. And the projection hasn't changed much in the last few years. Still shows a steady, slow decline, not as steep certainly as it was back in the 2008, 9, 10, but a bit of a decline coming up in the years ahead. And I think we've all seen this a few times, and frankly, it's coming to pass, as the numbers I showed you a couple slides ago demonstrate. Oftentimes we're asked about our class sizes. Elementary is much easier to figure. Middle school, high school gets messier. But elementary is pretty easy. You walk into your first grade classrooms and count how many kids you have. It's pretty easy to do. And with that one teacher and then several paras or a para perhaps. But it's an important question that's been asked, and I think it's, as the slide demonstrates, kindergarten 1 and 2, we made an educational decision to staff those stronger than the state does as an average, although we don't really know what the state does for kindergarten because they didn't really collect data on kindergarten in the past. First, we see first grade, yes, our classes are somewhat smaller than the state average. Second grade, our class sizes are actually larger. Again, these are functions of again, just how to keep this classes at manageable levels. And so, you get into different classes, but if you look at 2 through 6, overall average is about the state average. And this is, again, the projection for next year's classes. These are the staffing positions at the elementary school. Middle school, high school, projected enrollment for next year by grade level. These are important. It's always good to have this number up here rather than down here. We mean we're going to have the benefits of that big class for several years. And then the staffing positions and how many of each. Very briefly, but again, I think that as we start looking at our budget, it's important to realize the breadth of programming that we have, middle school offerings, a wide variety of electives, core classes. We try to make sure that students get access in the middle school to classes that will lead to eventual CTC offerings and programs. Again, we have, I think all of us in this room know, one of the finest career tech centers anywhere, not just in the state of New Hampshire, but anywhere. So it behooves us to get students interested in those areas. Our high school classes. You see a variety there. You see hands-on classes, you see AP classes, you see advanced classes, you see a little bit more, we see the college classes, college level classes we'll look at in a minute. We get a very diverse, strong, I just want to say vibrant, fine arts curriculum offered. Advanced placement, we are rebuilding that program and adding opportunities for students to take advanced placement classes. We all know that almost any advanced placement class that's ever been done is available online. We also know that online learning isn't best for all students. Some students do it very well. Some students actually prefer it. But one thing that we hear a lot about is personalized learning, differentiated instruction, but personalized learning, and learning takes on all different shapes and sizes and forms for students. Some students do extremely well with an online program, with a good human element. You take the online programming and add a really strong human element to it, like Lisa does so well at the Charter Academy. You've got something. So we know that different students will have different needs. We're really excited. A lot of this, like the Running Start courses, the dual credit. Why take a class as a high school junior, senior, and turn right around? Most of us know this. We went through it ourselves probably. The first 2 years of college were like, in some cases, high school all over, a few of the classes anyway. So we try to go away from that duplication. We can't afford to do that anymore. So we've added. And we're getting bigger numbers. Advanced coursework over the past 3 years. Students earning college credit. Dual enrollment. Dual enrollment means the student's getting a credit for a high school class as well as a college class. And some are doing both. But we're really excited about this. This is raising the rigor, raising the expectations, giving students more opportunities. And again, we want all of our students to be successful. We want our students, whether they're going to 2-year, 4-year, no year, whatever they're doing postgraduate, we want them to be successful.
You talked about this earlier in the year during the budget process. This past Sunday on Channel 9, the governor was, I'm not sure if he was talking exactly, or he was talking about from the other end, but basically he was talking about basically, I think, doing your first year of associate's degree in high school.
Absolutely.
And then getting your second year of associates actually free.
Yep.
And that was going to be funded through the state budget, not in any other fashion. So I think it was the same thing he was talking about from the other end.
Yeah, and we've been doing that for a few years. It's even accelerated the last year or two. And now the state, I mean, some of those courses now are actually, college credits are no charge to the student if they're in certain areas, core math, science areas, the STEM areas, for instance. So, yeah, that we're getting, education has to be more streamlined and efficient all the way through the system. K-12 and beyond, and that's a good example of that happening. Career and Tech Center staffing for the next year. Again, an amazing set of programs available to students. We do have a few students who do leave our career center and go over to the regional culinary arts, welding, a few things, but the vast majority of the students in a pretty big area here come here in the first 2 hours every day. At least juniors and seniors, a lot of them do. This is a Littleton Academy, and this is a program that's in the old, as you maybe know, the old Daisy Bronson Middle School. The students, again, some of these students a few years ago wouldn't have been able to stay here and take classes here. They would have had to go to some other place, and we've been paying tuition. In a little while, you'll see why it's not a good idea. We can avoid it. A program that we talked about last year was in development as we were doing the budget hearing and delivery session process a year ago. We talked a little bit about we were grappling with how do we use the resources we have better, how do we supplement the alternatives we have for students. At that time, we had several programs we were using internally here that with varied success. Learn, we did some work before school, after school, and library. We did various things to help support students, and again, with varying degrees of success. We sent students to the Charter Academy, but we felt like we needed more. We needed something that would not only reach our 16, 17, 18-year-old students, but even reach beyond that a little bit. So, Above the Notch Community School was born. And the mission there speaks pretty well to what we were trying to do. It's taught here, the CTC area. It's competency-based. Students that they show what they've learned. A little different approach, although most of our schools, K-12 here, are now competency-based, but it's a little different way of learning than what we were used to, probably. Try to be very flexible. These classes happen in the afternoon and evening. Many of our students work. They have jobs. They work all day long, or they're doing community service. Some of them are doing internships during the day, or could be doing it. It's a blended learning approach. We haven't had students necessarily do this, but the curriculum and the classes and the courses and the programs here at the traditional high school are not closed to these students. They can take part of that and then go to this. They do take advantage of the CCC also as part of this curriculum. At the end of the day, it's the results. We're in a results-oriented business. 20 more students, 4 students have already met the requirements for a diploma, and another 12 will meet the requirements for diploma this May. So that's 16 people that, because of this program, will have their high school diploma. And that's a quote from one of our students. Robert and Justin both had excellent articles, by the way, in their respective newspapers the last week or so about above the notch. And the course offering and the staffing. The SAU office. You know, we have people, and probably some of these other we struggle with, where do we put certain positions when there are multiple schools and multiple levels. So sometimes if they're doing work in all the schools, all levels, we just kind of put them together here. Dale Pryor, Director of Operations and Technology, again covers a variety of programs here in the district, school psychologists, and so on. These are the budgets. You'll see the history, how much was budgeted for each program. You'll see, and again, the recurring theme of the budget going into 1920, and unfortunately, it will be the rising cost of special education placements. Students who, despite our best efforts, despite everything that we can do, despite the best teachers and programs and supports that we can get for them, are simply beyond, their needs are beyond what we're able to give them here. They have to go and in some cases attend resident or go to a residential school, literally in that placement for 24 hours a day. And when that happens, it's the bill that comes due is about $200,000 a year. So, hence the large increase in the budget for SPED. Other budgets are slight increases or some trending reductions. I just asked Dale to just highlight a few of the things that are in the operations budget. These are things that we plan to do, upgrades we plan to make. Question is oftentimes asked. I asked the question actually initially, why are we so worried about blinds? This isn't, well, blinds are actually kind of important depending upon where the location of the room is to where the sun is during the day. It's also a safety issue. That's one of the things is when we do some of our safety drills, lockdown drills, secure campus, so on, it's necessary to have the ability to be able to block the visibility from the outside. A few of the items from the technology budget. We put quite a bit of money into our network. It's funny, yesterday, I was just telling Dale how great our network was working. When a few years ago it was down all the time and very inconsistent, and it had very few network outages. And I think Patty, it was like 10 minutes later that we lost the internet over at the SAU office. So Dale told me not to ever talk about it again. But seriously, that's as critical to the modern school as paper and pencil was once upon a time. It's hard to do the work without it. So we get to some of the budget pieces, budget philosophy of the board, budget priorities. And these are tough. As you all know, we have many needs, some wants, and we have limited resources. A few things as we put this budget together and grappled. Our health insurance rates went down. This is the second year in a row they've gone down. We had a tiny decrease last year, a pretty significant decrease this year. I never thought I would say that, but we did have a decrease even 2 years in a row. Cost per pupil, and this data is always a year behind, but I know much has been made of our cost per pupil, but it is going down instead of up. Last year, the state of New Hampshire average cost per pupil went up over $500 per student. Ours went down $567. And that was actually during the 16-17 school year. 17-18 was, or excuse me, 18-19, I would expect the same, maybe not a $500 drop, but our average cost per pupil, the next time this data is released, will drop again, because that will be based on the year we're currently in. Proposed budget preserves current programs and opportunities. Again, some of our advanced coursework, our broad set of electives. We are adding a part-time social worker funded through an IDA grant. And frankly, as I said, a lot of our budget increase is driven by, unfortunately, the placement of tuition place costs. And here they are. A few years ago, it was costing us a little under $100,000. We had a couple of students that were placed, and you can see the trend. Not only do we have a few more students, but the severity and cost of placing is significantly increased. So here we are, 18-19, we're sitting with $240,000 budgeted, and we're looking at about $500,000. So as my administrators and board can attest, it's going to be an interesting rest of the year. And we hope, and I hope we will protect that capital reserve balance, because it looks like we're going to need it next year, even with $400,000 budgeted in next year's that line. We all know about stabilization, phased out over a few years. Nothing here, no big surprises. Facilities, social emotional needs of students, so is a continuing rising cost. So that's in the form of more support, mental health services, in extreme cases, out-of-district placement. The things that we've been hearing for a while now, look out, it's coming. Well, it's here. Some of the ills that we've been reading about. So you all have a document that has a general fund budget that Tom has prepared. There's a handful of copies if you want the whole thing. We brought a few of those tonight. That's like 82 pages or whatever. You can get the documents that we're sharing tonight. If you want to look at the entire budget page by page, I go into our website, click on the Hot Topics button. That'll get you to the full budget, as well as some information about Lakeway and a lot of different things. So we'll quickly walk through the budget document with you. That would be this document here that was available when you came in. I always start at the back. Tom knows this. Every time he gives me a budget, I always go to the last page, because that's what I want to know. Are we in and out? So if you look at the last page there, you'll see a general fund increase of $165,797. After it's all said and done, how do we get there? Well, I just said that one area of our budget is going up $160,000 to $80,000. That's part of it. There's other things as well. So walking through here, what we budget sometimes it's hard to explain a few of the things because it's based on what we have. And so we start budgeting for benefits, salary, and benefits. Salary we know, benefits we don't know. Someone's spouse, they all of a sudden get an insurance benefit. We like that when that happens. That means that we're not paying for that insurance benefit, but we can't budget that way. We have to at least budget for what we think that employee is likely to select. And so what we think is usually what they're currently doing. So some of these fluctuations are due to some of that. Some of the fluctuations are due to budget decisions we made, cuts, additions. But I think as we walk through here, you won't see any huge changes. Regular education, one thing you'll see a significant decrease, $107,000. The reason for that, actually more than the reason for that, comes at the bottom of the page. This is an accounting move. Once upon a time, actually until this year, our ESOL budget was included in the 1100s. As we breaking that out, because there is a section in the budget, the 1260 section, that specifically addresses English ESOL. So now that's its own separate area of the budget. It's not a part of the 1100s anymore, so that obviously changes the number there. Special education, the increase there based on tuition, mostly on the rise in tuition. Next pages that are gifted, talented program, tech ed. We don't call it vocation. We don't call it vocational education. The systems do. Not that there's anything wrong with vocational education, but the term for a while now has been career tech education. Although I don't, vocational education implies working, getting a job, earning a skill that will earn you money. It's really not that bad of a word, in my opinion. Far more. Student activities. The costs that are part of the programs that we operate. Again, I think if you start looking at these, if you dig deeper into great big budget documents, you'll see that we try to really tighten things down, look carefully at what's been spent in the past, and try to get back to those levels or less. The 1600 on page 3 is adult education. That's above the Notch Community School. There is an allocation there. Last year we spent, this current year we're spending $63,000 out of the general fund budget. Next year the budget line accounts for $90,000. There's $30,000 in revenue that's anticipated, or at least possibly, for that school. If we don't get the revenue, we don't spend it. We can't. Our biggest fear is we get additional students, and we don't have to hire more resources. We are not able to do that if we don't change the appropriation. Going on page 4. The school site, our speech services, PT, OT, improvement instruction, mentoring. That's our curriculum coordinator, instructional support program. Well, one thing I did fail to mention, it's not a big number, but general words, the counseling budget, Naviance. We put a few dollars in. We're going to start using a program called Naviance. It's a well-known. Every school I've ever been at to use it. It's a terrific program to use for college applications, for warehousing information, giving our students opportunities to access the best colleges, and most importantly, the best colleges being able to access our students' information. It has a tremendous amount of career development, planning, and assessment, and it's a great tool. Okay, page 5, school board, educational media, superintendent's office. Not too many changes there. We'll go a little uptick in the cost of Channel 2, now Granite State. More events. We're really trying to use that as a way to get information out, and it just increase a little bit of cost. Page 6, school administration, slight increase there, a little bit in the business office. Coming over to page 7, has a transportation budget. 27-21 student activities transportation, 80,000 down to 60,000. We did purchase a van at the end of last year. Used properly, that van will significantly decrease our costs in trips. Unfortunately, we've been spending a significant amount of money to send a few kids here and a few kids there in a large bus, where a van is much more efficient, cost effective. And then the final page has a little bit more of the information services, debt service, and transfer. So questions about the general fund? I say the people who put this together. If I can't answer, which is possible, we certainly can. Okay. Is this document useful, helpful? It seems to work pretty well. We do have a significant amount of income or revenue coming in through federal grants. So I thought it was important to share that with you. It's a lot of money. Title I, that we have 3.8 teachers that are funded through that program that are services in our elementary school. Title IIA, along with our teacher professional development, is funded through that one. IDEA, that's the special education. That helps support our social work services and what else, Kelly?
Preschool inclusion.
Preschool inclusion specialist. Our social worker, part-time social worker, will be Lakeway, is also paid out of that grant. A little bit of IDA for preschool. Perkins is our technical education, CTC, program improvement funds. Title V is a rural low-income schools grant that we get a little bit of money every year. Those dollars are going toward Above the Notch Community School. Career Pathways, a new grant this year written by Al and Rochelle. That grant, as it implies, is a grant to support career counseling for students, getting them in the right direction they need. Adult Diploma, that was a startup grant from the state of New Hampshire. That got Above the Notch started. Title IV is a new grant, as you can see, and most of that grant will be dedicated toward Above the Notch as well. So you can see a fairly healthy growth in the grant revenue. A few other grants. Our grant writer, that's one of the things that Rochelle does, awarded a grant from Walmart to help with some of the supplies for Above the Notch. I applied with the state of New Hampshire last year, actually, for these infrastructure grants, and we got a fair number of them. The state pays 80%, we pay 20% of these projects, and so the number you see up there, that's the state share. Security cameras have been purchased, the radios have been purchased, the academies or the windows come into the academy are coming. The stairs at Lakeway have been replaced and the doors are in process. The academy windows specifically, the windows are thin and they're not very safe, and so replacing them was a priority. Operating budget. You'll see that 12 million plus of the 16 is salary benefits. That's 75%, not uncommon, especially organizations like ours. Estimated revenue. State of New Hampshire funds the schools 60%, right at 60% by local taxation. Then the other sources that we have, that's the breakdown. The default budget. Anybody have questions about the default budget, by the way? It's done a little different this year. The rules have changed a little bit. Tom, is there a 1-minute summary you can give for the default budget? It's kind of important that people are aware of it.
Well, especially
you're all prepared to do this, right? I did say you'll.
Because of some of the changes in legislation, we do need to speak about it. We traditionally have anyway. But, the primary change to the way a default budget is prepared now, everything is based on the last amount approved by the voters. In the past, we knew we had a health insurance contract for the next year. We had an idea of what the rates were going to be. That was added to the default budget. Now, if that amount hadn't been approved previously, that amount is not included in the default budget. So what we do have this year is the second year of a support staff contract, which was approved. It was on the warrant article last year, year 1 and year 2. So that is approved and in the default budget. The biannual whatever, review of New Hampshire retirement system rates is required by law. So we've calculated the change in that particular case. Employees and support staff rate is actually decreasing a little bit. Professional staff is increasing a little bit to offset it. We have a bond payment. We have a bond for both the high school and CTC middle school. Each year, it's level principal, so we're paying a little less in interest each year. So those are taken out of the default budget. And capital reserve fund articles that you voted last year, we consider to not be part of the ongoing operation. So they can be viewed. They're not even included in the official state form. We take them out as a one-time appropriation. Because if you look at the official form when it comes out, to be posted with the budget and the articles, I wanted to come back down to the amounts that were actually voted and approved last year. Since you did approve those, I included them in my calculations, but I'm taking them out to get to the default budget. So that puts your default budget at $16,335,130 for the next year. Where was mine?
Questions on the phone? Okay, we have a warrant article for the professional staff teachers. The current year, because the warrant article last year failed, teachers stayed with the status quo, which meant they didn't get step movement or anything else in terms of wage and salaries. So they stayed at zero this year, so no increase. As I said, we're catching a bit of a break next year with a drop in health insurance. So the professional agreement that is a 2-year agreement, proposed agreement, or agreed to, but going to the voters agreement. There's no new money has been put into the schedule. It's simply enacting the schedule that was passed several years ago, negotiated a few years ago, whereby each step movement, that is each year, $1,350 is added to a teacher's salary. So that's the only increase that was agreed to. So basically our salary schedule sits as it is, there's no changes, except people get to move their one step. It's a 2-year agreement for 2019, 2020, 2020-21. We did change the longevity rules a little bit. In the past, the rules said you had to be on step 16. Once you reach step 16 and finish that year, or 17, or then in year 17, you qualify for a $1,000 longevity increase. Change that language to read instead of once you serve those number of years, that is 17 years, you qualify for longevity. So decoupled it. We had people that were all over the place on the salary schedule. Some people that were here 20 years and still had not received longevity. The new costs for the teacher agreement, 1920, $118,618, a little over 2%. 2021, $106,449, a little under 2%. Breaks it down. You see the salaries, that's the step movement, the longevity. We factor in the cost of benefits, FICA, retirement, and we get the total for each of the years. Compared to the agreement last year that was not approved, about $225,067 versus $347,903, so considerably less money than what was voted last year. And again, I remind, this year there was a zero, so that lowers it even more if it's approved. All right, off to Lakeway Elementary. I'm going to show a video, it's a little short video. I think you've seen the video so far. Few of us are seeing this not for the first time, but many will be seeing it for the first time. So when we just show that, and then Ralph is going to give a report on the work of LEFAC in more detail, and then better than what I did, and then we'll talk briefly about where is the location, the work that's been done with that process, the proposed location of the school, and what has gone into that. So let me get the video queued up here, and we'll watch that.
Lakeway Elementary was built in the 1950s, and it shows its age. Cracks run up the walls. Where one wing of the building joins another, the two are literally pulling apart. On the second floor, decades of weight have bent the floor. Cracked tiles and deformed it all along the length of the hallway. Ceiling tiles are in rough shape. Mold stains grow on many surfaces. Signs of disrepair are everywhere and going nowhere soon. Downstairs, the full costs of time become clear. The boiler could last another 10 years or fail tomorrow. Water pools around its base, along with buildups of calcium. Heating and air conditioners are made in half a dozen models, some of them defunct. Tracking down parts is a yearly headache. Failed units have left whole classrooms too cold to teach, forcing classes to relocate until repairs can be completed. Sometimes, classrooms are empty for days or weeks. Energy costs are higher than they should be, and insulation is weak. The cafeteria is too small for its needs. To reach the cooler and freezer, employees have to walk across where the students eat. Space is tight everywhere, forcing creative solutions. Lakeway's indoor athletics space is used for winter sports, when space is especially tight. Gym space has been blocked off to create room for athletics, music, and drama equipment. Out back, the problems of space become even more obvious. Lakeway sits on the edge of a slope, which limits its room to expand. The land behind the school goes right uphill. That makes it good for sledding, but not much else. Signs of age show from the outside, too. From crumbling siding and foundations, to propane leaks, to mold and stains. Although the Lakeway Library is clean and well stocked, it is housed in a portable classroom that's more than 20 years old. It's too small for full classroom instruction. In a larger space, teachers could bring their full classes in for research and enjoyment. In the basement, supplies, textbooks, and electronics are stacked up to the ceiling. The building's electrical systems are a tangle of decades, projects, and patches. Out front, the school opens right onto Route 116, which poses serious safety and security problems. The busy highway makes it hard to evacuate students safely, and buses line up right at the edge of the road. At pickup time, parents line their cars along the side of the highway, while 18-wheelers drive by from sunrise to sunset. The recent Safe Routes to School project has improved the sidewalks, but the proximity to the highway remains. Many Lakeway students walk home from school, as they have for decades. The major problems of old age and limited space will remain.
Okay, bringing up a presentation here that Ralph will now give on the work of the Lakeway Advisory Committee.
Good evening. As I look out here, I don't see a lot of unfamiliar faces. So most of you have probably heard this 3 or 4 times already. Between Ron Bolt and myself, we've given it 6 times. We're scheduling for 2 more, at least 2 more meetings to present this to. There are some new slides with some new information in here, and after I'm done, there's going to be more information about this presented by the superintendent. So hang around and see what we've got. All right, and I'm going to kind of, the big audience tonight really is TV, because most of you have already seen this before. So the TV audience is going to be looking at seeing what's going on here. Back in July, as a result of some of the issues with the Lakeway Elementary School, some of the cracks in the walls and some of the ceiling tiles, the floors, kind of wavy floors on the second floor, the Warren Street architect was come in and was asked to give a report on most of the issues with the school, okay? And that's what led to this. After that report came out, the school board put together a committee to study what would be in the best interest of everyone for Lakeway School. What do we need to do with Lakeway School to bring it up to where it needs to be? A lot of the deficiencies found were not up to state code. They did not meet life safety codes by the state of New Hampshire. So this committee is put together, and it's called the Lakeway Elementary Facilities Advisory Committee. And we spent a great deal of time and effort trying to really understand what needs to be done. And that's what we presented to the school board. And that's what I'm going to present to you tonight. And it was all based on the issues that came out of Warren Street's report. That report showed over 80 deficiencies in 21 key areas. A lot of you saw on that film. You saw the cracks in the walls, the ceiling tiles in bad shape, the floors where the floors wobble, the tiles are all cracked. A lot of those were life safety issues. For example, the stairways coming from the second floor to the first floor are not up to life safety code. They do not pass life safety code. They're not wide enough to get everybody out in case of a major catastrophe. Okay, so that was a failure that was picked up by Warren Street Architect and put into this report. Some of the doors, some of the egresses, some of the windows, there was a lot of different things. There were 80 different deficiencies in 21 areas. There wasn't enough room to accommodate all the uses. The building is antiquated, all right? It sits on a 70-year-old foundation, was built in 1950, sits on a 70-year-old foundation that's crumbling on the outside. And the walls are still the same walls. They're 70-year-old walls, 70-year-old roofs. You can see the roof, the insulation. A lot of this building was not insulated back in 1950 because it's brick walls. All you got in here is just bricks, not bricks, but blocks. You know, the block walls. They weren't insulated throughout. So the roof, the insulation, it's all in old shape. Indoor environmental quality is bad. Because of the cracks, because of the leaks in the windows, because of the air conditioning ventilation systems that sometimes work, sometimes don't. You heard that on the film there. Bad air is being sucked into the school. Good air is being pushed out through the cracks. So we don't have a sealed system throughout the elementary school where the air just kind of flows through filter systems and flows around and stays healthy. There's bad air coming in, bad air going out. So when you have a sick kid, it pretty much gets spread out through all the kids or throughout the whole school. So the indoor environment is bad. The building services are in poor condition. The interior, you saw on that film, the interior is really in pretty bad condition. The floors and the walls and the downstairs that has water leaking into the basement where the furnaces is all the time, constantly, all year round. Inadequate safety, fire, and security systems. These systems do work. They are currently okay to run these systems, but if you look at the fire alarm system, it just got replaced here, or not replaced, repaired here not too long ago, because it does tend to break down from time to time. So the alarm system is set up for the fire department, but when it goes off, it tells the fire department there's a fire at Lakeway Elementary School. That's all it tells them, okay? It's an older system. It does need repair constantly, but a brand new, up-to-date, modern fire system would alert Littleton Fire Department and tell them exactly, pinpoint the exact spot that fire's in. So Littleton could respond very quickly to the exact location and help with the egress of the kids and do whatever needs to be done, but get to that fire immediately. So the systems are kind of antiquated. There's an awkward use of space where in some places we've got hazardous material that's in locations it shouldn't be, such as underneath the stairwells. Inadequate core spaces, the gym, the cafeteria. These are not up to state code, neither the gym nor the cafeteria. They're too small for that school according to state code. The gym is so narrow now that the wall only sits a few just inches away from the basketball court. So if kids are out there playing and running, it's very possible that a kid chasing the ball may not be able to stop fast enough before the basketball goes over here and there's a wall right there. So it's not a safe condition. And it's too small according to state code. The cafeteria is too small according to state code. Because of the cafeteria design and the coding of it, the size of it, kindergarten kids eat in their classrooms. They don't eat in the cafeteria. They stay in the classrooms, they eat in their classrooms. All the other kids throughout the school have to go through about 6 different lunch cycles. So they're starting lunch very early, and some of them are eating lunch very late, almost close to the time school gets out, because it's just not big enough to feed the kids and bring them in enough at a time. Outdated classroom design. They got classrooms that are L-shaped. They got classrooms with egresses, by the way, which is not up to code. You're supposed to have 2 separate egresses for all the classrooms. Some of the classrooms egress from one classroom into another classroom. It egresses into another classroom. So their egresses out of there in case of an emergency, in case of a catastrophe, they have to go from classroom through the classrooms to get outside. So it's just bad designs. The special education section is pretty much located in an area where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, a lot of intrusions, interruptions. And as you know, special education requires, some of these kids require quiet, peaceful areas to be able to work and learn, while the areas where the special education is located right now does have a lot of traffic, a lot of interruptions in it. Okay, so we did a review. We reviewed Lakeway, the 4th Street Architects. We also reviewed a number of different properties. We went and looked at a number of different properties. We looked at the past, what some of the committees had decided on in the past, and how they had approached it. And we approached it with a different set of eyes, saying, okay, what can we do with Lakeway, or what can we do outside of Lakeway somewhere else. So we presented that, our review to the school board. The options that we were considering, there are 3 separate options. The first one was a 1-year remodel or renovate that building. Would take 1 full year, cost about $12 million, which means that when school got out on one summer period, we'd take a whole school year and the next summer, and they'd come in and they would remodel or renovate Lakeway. But that whole school year, we still have to educate our kids. So what do we do with 350 kids or so with the school shut down? We would have to build classrooms somewhere. We'd have to do something to be able to get those kids and the teachers into a safe location to be able to continue school for that year. Or it was discussed that we would bus kids out of there. We'd bus them to Whitefield, we'd bus them to Bethlehem, we'd bus them to Elizabeth, wherever they could take them, because that's a lot of kids, 350 kids. And all the other schools around here are pretty small schools. So we'd be lucky if the schools could take 20, 25 apiece. But we discussed busing them for that 1 year. So that was one of our options. The other option was a 5 to 6 year renovation period, which had a cost of about $9.5 million, which, by the way, is the cost of renovating in 5 to 6 years pretty much would have covered just the things that are out of code and out of life safety code. It would not have really remodeled the entire school. It wouldn't have remodeled all the classrooms. It would put new equipment in, heating, ventilation systems, but it wasn't going to renovate the entire school. But over that 5 to 6 years, what would happen is during the summertime, our crews would come in and they'd work on part of the school to do whatever the renovations are. Extend the gymnasium, extend the cafeteria, put in new air conditioners, whatever needs to be done. But they do it every summer for 5 to 6 years. Now, if they're not full, if they're not completed at the end of that summer, then there would be some interruption to the kids. There'd be construction going on and kids trying to learn at the same time. The other thing there is New Hampshire DOE, Department of Education, says that if renovating is going to be 60% or more of rebuilding a new building, then you don't renovate, you rebuild. And you'll see that that $9.5 million would only cover the coded areas, not a whole lot of renovation, but all the codes will be completed, but it's pretty close to that 60%. Another option was do the minimum to rectify the building code deficiencies. Now, we saved $1 million there, but the building code deficiencies, if you talk about extending, making that gym bigger, making that cafeteria bigger, doing everything that's going to be done, extending those stairways, making them wider, which you're going to have to cut some floors out. The ceilings are going to have to be completely redone because when the second floor was built in, the part of the ceilings weren't completely attached. The sill, some of the sills weren't completely attached. So they got to redo all the sills between the second and first and second floor and the second and roof. That's not going to happen for $1 million. That $1 million would be just to cover the life safety codes that we know right now have to be completed, such as the egress for the stairways. It's closer to $9 million to cover everything in that building that needs to be covered by code. We can also ignore the issue and continue to put in, if you look at your budget, the budget they're proposing, if we don't do anything with Lakeway, add another $100,000 to that just for maintenance to keep Lakeway running. That's in case another ventilator breaks down. We've got to put another ventilator. I think some of those things run around $70,000 a piece. So a minimum of $100,000 a year just to keep it running above what is budgeted for the education. Or we can replace the school, or do nothing. The committee chose to replace the school, and that's what we submitted to the school board. Now, if we do nothing, about $100,000 additional maintenance every year above the regular budget, above the budget. We're looking at a minimum $100,000 a year just to keep the school open and running. The cost of the children and teachers, community with loss of intangible benefits. I'll show you that in a minute. Potential loss of new families. There's a lot of talk about the growth in this community, in this town, okay? And in order to grow this town any more than it is right now, because population's not really growing. We're getting a lot of businesses, a lot of plants and stuff that come in here, but the population's not growing. But if we put a brand new elementary school in a location that's attractable to housing developments, we'll start seeing our population possibly start growing. Right now, that school, if you go down, take a look at that school and drive by it, especially during a very busy time of the day when the traffic is loaded, people wanting to move to this area are going to look at that school as they drive by and say, I'm not really sure. Maybe I should go in and take a tour of it. If they took the tour of it, then they're going to say, no, I don't want to come here. I don't want my kids coming here. So there's a potential loss of new families moving into Wilton. With a new school, that chance of them moving in increases. Lack of storage, which leads to flammable materials stored in fire towers. There's a serious failure, possibility of serious failures of the roof, the boilers, the heating system. Concerns relating to the stability of the second floor because the joists were never actually put in correctly. The egress for the children, the staff, and the staff on the second floor. There's a lot of different issues that have to be involved here. The roof, they keep having to fix this roof and test it because there are wet spots on the roof that stay wet all the time. And if you get too much rain and too much water up there, it starts getting into leaking, starts leaking down through. The boilers are very archaic. They're very old. They could go at any time. All right? They may not, but they could. They could go right now anytime this year. And what happens if we lose that main boiler and we have to rely on a smaller boiler? It's going to have to work really, really hard to keep up with the heating system for that school. So there's a chance that second boiler can go down. And then what happens? What do you do if the two boilers go down? We don't have insufficient reserve funds to deal with major catastrophes. You saw the budget tonight, you saw what they're looking at, okay? So we had to consider all of these different factors in a condition of what Lakeway, when we came up with a conclusion that we need to replace Lakeway to meet the needs of our students, our teachers, and our community. We recommend replacing the school because it's 70, right now, this year, it's 69 years old. It was built in 1950. It'll be 70 years old next year. There are parts of it, the outside walls are starting to crumble a little bit. You saw all the mold and stuff that's gathered up on that thing. I mean, that stuff can be bleached off. But because of the way the system is with those that old cement and old brick, it's going to keep coming right back. It's not a historic building, so we don't have to save the building for historic or cultural purposes. It's too costly to renovate, and if we renovate, we still will have an old building with the same structure, the same foundation, which are, after 70 years, they're going to weaken up. I didn't mention this earlier, but that school was originally built as a one-floor schoolhouse. On that same foundation, on that same, with the same walls, the same structure. It was built as a one-story schoolhouse. Then they put a second story on it. It's had 8 major renovations since 1970 because they put a wing on for the kindergartens, they put a wing on the other side for classes, then they put the temporary buildings on, they put an elevator in, they had to redo the office area to bring that out a little bit. So it's had 8 major renovations, and every time you have a renovation, you tend to have cracks. That's what it was showing, with the cracks in the walls are right where the old and the new walls tend to meet. That's where the cracks are. We'll still be on a busy highway if we renovate. We're not going to get rid of that issue. And we still won't have sufficient parking for the teachers and staff. Right now, we pay $22,000, the school pays we taxpayers, pay $22,000 a year for the elementary school teachers to park. Okay? With a new school, we can build in the parking spaces and get rid of some of that. And we'll lose play. If we renovate, we're going to lose playground space too, by the way. Because if you renovate that gym and make it bigger, it's going to go out. You renovate that cafeteria, it's got to go out. When you push those out, and the architects are recommending that we somehow change the bus route around the back of the Lakeway and not around the front where the cars come in and the parents come in. We do that around the back, in and out, and they're gone. Okay? So you put the bus lanes in here, you move the gym and the cafeteria out. Now you're in the playground. You move the building out to where the playground is. That means you got to move the playground up a little bit higher onto the hill. So we're going to lose, if we remodel, we're going to lose playground space. Renovation versus replacement. Lakeway was built in the 1950s. The building's already been remodeled 8 times. There are many issues. And we're still going to have the same problems we have with the road and the safety of that road. And many of you have been by it during the daytime when it's busy. I've tried to cross that road at night after dark, and there's got the little flashing yellow lights. Well, I hit that light, and I started to move out, and I saw a car light coming, and he wasn't slowing down, and I thought, I better wait. And that car just went right straight on through. I was on this side, there was a woman and her child on that side, both right on the edge of the road, ready to cross over, and that car just flew right on through. They don't pay attention. They don't pay attention, or they're on their telephone, or for some reason they need to get through there in a hurry, so they don't slow down. Okay, so you still got the same problem with safety for that school. We need a 21st century facility. We need to set that up and mainstream it for special education needs. Individual education programs. You know, it's not the program we get 35 desks and a teacher here says, open your books, read that chapter, tomorrow morning you'll have a test. They don't work that way anymore. Everything's specialized today, everything is individualized. And we need to set classrooms and build classrooms for that purpose. Teacher-student ratios, we know that they've gotten smaller. Okay, and we need to build a classroom for those ratios. ADA requirements, demand for preschool, use of new technologies, realistic parking for the teachers so the school board doesn't have to pay for that every year, and energy efficient opportunities, such as we build a new school with, you see these lights that are in here, they're kind of yellowish, kind of dull, even when you brighten them up. Today's studies say that LED light is better for your eyesight when you're reading and writing, okay? And it helps you concentrate more. These are studies that are actually in the system today, okay? The more natural light you get, the better your opportunity to be able to study and learn. So you can imagine a school with all LED or mostly LED lightings in the classrooms to give the kids a better opportunity to learn. Energy efficiency. No walls, no holes in the walls or cracks in the walls or leaky windows, so you got the air that just kind of circulates in the school and just keeps circulating healthy, good, healthy air. And of course, violence. Now the intangible benefits are better learning, higher scores on standardized tests. These are proven facts. We have the documentations from the professors and all the other learned people that have studied all these. These are learned facts. Higher scores on standardized tests you'll see in new schools. Okay? Better safety for teachers and students. If you go over there for a ball game at Lakeway right now, you go in the front of the school where the offices are, you walk down the hallway and a little way down this way. But you know, if you wanted to, instead of going this way, you can actually go that way. You could go up the stairs. You can go anywhere in that school right now. Anybody comes in there for any type of after-hours event, you can go anywhere in the school. The new school will be set up so that where your gym and where your out after hours or something programs will be, it can be locked in. That's all you can get into is that area. You cannot wander around the school. So it's a better safety for teachers and students, better health for everyone, better image for the community to attract families. Imagine a beautiful elementary school sitting on a hill and you got all this land around it, you can build houses. People are gonna wanna build next to an elementary school. And if you look at any town that's grown tremendously in the last few years, you'll see that. If they put a school in, they'll build houses around the school. New recreation opportunities. Okay, so this idea of putting up a new school is the same idea that the committee came up with in 2008, again in 2016, and now our committee is saying the same thing. You need a new school. It's not going to be cost effective for you to remodel or rebuild that school. You need a new one. If we don't do it now, when do we do it? It's going to have to happen at some point. The long-term approach. What we're looking at is purchasing a piece of land, Greenwood Acres, which is at the end of Oak Hill Avenue right up here, about 26 acres. It'll be for multi-purpose use because the town can get involved in looking at some recreation sites up there. Maybe a quarter-mile track so that us senior citizens can get out and walk around instead of trying to walk around the up and down hill track at Remick Park. We need a place to get out and walk. So there's opportunities, of multi-purpose opportunities. Right now we'll put up the elementary school up there, new playgrounds as they're allowed, ball fields, substantial buffers. There'll be plenty of buffers between the houses that are up there right now. Because there's wooded areas between the houses and where the new school will be located. You'll see the new school location in a minute. Plenty of buffers for that. New housing close to the school, be able to build around the school a little ways, and other future community uses. Our strategy now, what we plan on doing, and that was what they were talking about with the bond hearing, we're going to put out a bond, we're going to put a warrant article out to bond about $900,000 over hopefully a 5-year period, or possibly 3 10-year periods, and fund that right now so that we can do 2 things. We got to buy the land, and we got to get the engineering and design documents in place. We have to have the companies come in and on paper build the school and build the land, put it all together. The reason we need that is because there's a possibility that the state building aid will come back. It's actually looking, you know, fairly decent right now. There's a lot of talk about it. We're also going to form a committee that came out of the AFLAC, or anybody else at AFLAC, LEFAC, and anybody else that may want to join that, because what we want to do is get out and talk to our representatives, talk to the governor. We want to approach the governor's council and actually get into one of their meetings and try to sell them on, look, it's time to bring building aid back. We're not the only school involved in these issues. There's a lot of schools right now involved in these issues, and they're all struggling to determine what to do. So we want to get together with the state officials and talk about bringing the building aid back. The other things that will be happening is we've got the town of Littleton between now and 2023 has 10 bonds that they've taken out in the past coming off the records. We won't be paying for those bonds anymore by 2023. The school district has one in 2023 and one in 2027 that are coming off. So there's a significant amount of money that's coming that we're paying as taxpayers right now to pay off these older bonds that will be off the books in 2023. So we'll either wait for the moratorium on building aid to come back, or wait for the existing bonds, or if some new circumstance comes up, like if anybody wants to give us $20 million to build a school, that'd be fine. I mean, keep that in mind. The rationale, and the reason we need that right now, because the state is saying if you want to be considered for school state aid, you have to be shovel ready to build. Shovel ready means we have to have the land, we have to have the engineering and the designs all in place. That all has to be worked out before we can qualify for state aid. Now, when state aid does come back in 2020, 2021, 2022, hopefully a little earlier than that, you know, maybe 2021 would be perfect. But when it does come back, it's going to be not a whole lot of money for the state of New Hampshire, but it's gonna be enough to help out a number of schools. The schools that are shovel-ready will get first choice on that state aid, okay? So we're saying that if we're shovel-ready, we've got the land and we've done all the paperwork and design, when it comes about, we can get some of that money, hopefully. Nothing's guaranteed, but we have a better chance than we would if we don't do this right now, this part of it. If we buy the land and nothing happens between now and the next 10 years, we can always sell it again. But I'm telling you, if nothing happens between now and the next 10 years, we may not have an elementary school. I don't know. There's always a possibility the state, if it gets too bad, they'll come in and possibly shut it down. But hopefully that's never going to happen. If we delay, we lose the land. Procrastination, if not now, when? Oh, I don't like that. Preliminary cost. We're asking for $900,000 bonded. That's what our bond's about this year. The new school building will be on average about $18 million. The $900,000 will get us the documentation we need and the land purchase. The cost of the 2019 bond at $900,000 will be 24 cents on tax rate. Estimated cost of future bonds with matching state aid, we're estimating $20 million for everything. But we're actually only, if we get that land now, the documentation, then we're looking at $18 million. Let's say we get a state aid at 55%, it's going to be less than $10 million we have to bond. It'll be $9,500,000 we have to bond. That's a whole lot less than bonding a full $20 million. The other two bonds for the high school is coming off in 2022, and the tech center is coming off in 2027. And that's kind of what we're waiting for, either state aid or for some of these bonds to expire. And then we're ready to move forward with it. If we proceed in 2022, 2023, the cost for the cost is about $750,000 a year. Bond 1 will be gone, bond 2 will be gone, so the balance is about $150,000 a year. Okay, is what we're going to have to pay back into the bond. Cost over the current payments, $150,000 a year. Lakeway additional repairs. Yeah, here's another one. So that $150,000, if that's our annual payment back on the bond, if we have to keep Lakeway as it is and put an extra $100,000 in, and the utility savings on a green school, it's actually costing us. Brand new school is only going to cost us, after those bonds come off, those two school bonds come off, only going to cost us $30,000 a year. For a brand spanking new school. So, a community opportunity, this is not something that the school needs to do this, because their goal and their mission is to provide a safe and healthy place for our kids to learn and to grow. So the school board has to do this, but we need to do this as a community. Everybody has to be involved in this. These are your children, your grandchildren, the community's children, grandchildren, and their success depends on us making the right decision. Okay. Get the lights. I just want to show you these two right here. This is what we're looking at doing in March of 2019. One article requesting authority to spend up to $900,000 to purchase land and complete preliminary engineering and site design for a new elementary school, to be funded with a 5-year bond with an expected interest rate of 3%. That's what we're looking for 2019. We're not looking to do all of this in 1 year. Okay? This is what we're looking for in the future. Anywhere from 3 to 5 years, hopefully it can be less than that. You know, if we get state aid in the next 2 years, we're going to move forward in the next 2 years. But we're looking 3 to 5 years time frame on it. Proposal warrant article to request funding and building of a new elementary school. Right now we're talking about around $18 million. That'll change with state aid. Okay? State building aid is reinstated, existing 2 school bonds are paid off or nearly paid off. These are the 2 things that we're going to be waiting for to move forward with the rest of the bond. That way it's going to be a lot less expensive to the taxpayers if we kind of get some of this other stuff done now. That's a fiscally responsible approach to building a new elementary school.
Okay?
Yes. Ralph?
Yeah.
I think we ought to thank you. You did a great job. You got a lot of passion. And great job as a volunteer. All the hours you put into this. Thank you.
How long she's at till? Any other questions on any of this? Okay.
Thank you, Ralph.
Now, you.
Thanks, Ralph.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Great work. Another very informative presentation on the work of LEFAC and the need of Lakeway. A little bit about the location. We've worked, as I mentioned, worked with an architect, Kyle Barker, Warden Street Architects, a little bit from the beginning, actually, and I spent quite a bit of time with him looking at various locations. It's interesting, this town, as you look back into history, you know, there's been talk of a new school, of a super complex, of this, of that, and the other, over and over and over and over and over again. And there's one location that kind of keeps coming back, and then there's Greenwood Acres. It's not without its faults. There's no perfect location almost anywhere, for that matter. But as the committee again revisited the works, specifically of the most recent work of the 2016 community-based committee, the preferred location was still came back to the Greenwood Acres location. This is in your slideshow, but this is Kyle's rendition of the layout of the new school. It's a two-story structure. There's advantages and disadvantages to two-story structures. Obviously, one of the major advantages to two-story structures is it takes less space. You're not repeating footings and certain architectural elements. You're reducing the number of roofs that you have to have. There's some advantages certainly to that. Disadvantages of two-story structure, you have an elevator obviously, and some other things as well. But at least for now, the layout is for it to be a two-story structure. One that would accommodate up to 500 students. You know, and I showed you a graph an hour ago that showed their student count doing this. And if Littleton does nothing, that could be true. It probably will just kind of go down and so on. But I think this community over the years has shown that it won't sit back and do nothing. They have lots of success stories to show that doing something about challenges has made a difference. So yeah, the school as designed would hold up to 500 students, and there's even space left if need be. I asked Kyle to even add some additional rooms if that were to ever become necessary. Some athletic facilities, room for significant athletic facilities, fields, and ample parking. One of the things we had a hearing or a meeting a week or so ago, last week. We wanted to make sure we invited the neighbors in because this is an area that we are concerned about. This is Oak Hill Avenue. This is how we access the school. Flow of the traffic comes in here and then exits back out. But and we talked about this a lot. The thing we don't want to have happen is cars backed up all the way back here, but that Kyle has assured me that this is designed in a way that won't happen. There's enough queuing space here to accommodate a number of cars, and that won't be a problem. Any questions about, we're going to move on to the rest of the budget, about Lakeway? The Liberty session, the architect will be here, the construction manager as well will be here. So if there's other questions that come up, we can address those then as well.
Steve, there's a question.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah.
Is the 26 acres the green colored space in there, and the yellow would not be part of the purpose?
Correct. Yeah, there's two parcels here. There's one that's about 19 acres, and this part's about 7 acres. But the two together is right at 27 acres. This here, this is important. This is owned. This would be part of the parcel owned by the school. It's a buffer. It's intended to stay that way. That's the advantage of the school retaining that. We know that it won't be developed in the residential. You know, and those of you who know the area well know there's some water in here anyway. But it fits in well with the school because the wetlands aspect and some of the other things does have some educational value. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Is the maximum space there for 2 outdoor recreation fields?
Yes. Yeah, and I've asked Kyle. I think I asked him the 3rd or 4th time the other day. I want to make sure those aren't optical illusions. Those are full-size soccer fields, and they are. So there's quite a bit of space there. There's 2 fields. I think we all in this room know if we follow our athletic teams. I think we know that we have one field that's pretty good size and a good field, and others that maybe don't fit into that category.
Before you move on,
Sure.
the rest of the budget, I just wanted to give a little update on
Sure.
building aid.
Please.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Hennessy. I'm one of your 3 state representatives for Littleton. And the school building aid, I'm not sure if it's going to pass or not this year, but if it does, it can come about in a few ways. On February 14th, the governor will give us his budget. He could have included it in his capital budget plan. Another way is House Bill 175 and 176 are requesting no less than $50 million a year for school building aid. It sounds like a lot, but there's a bonded amount from past building aid projects that's at about $35 million, so it doesn't really leave, if it's only at $50 million, it doesn't leave that much money. And the timeline for this is if it passes this year, it would start in fiscal year 2020, which is July 1st of 2019. But there's already a backlog of projects who have started the process for application and have been approved once funding becomes available. And there's, as the school board I'm sure knows the process, and Superintendent Niles knows, it starts in the summertime, and you have to go through different phases of applications, and it goes through the Department of Education and then another committee, and they've already approved plans for schools. So if school building aid does come back in 2020 and 2021, that's the biennium for the state budget, unless something else happens, Lakeway will not get funding in this upcoming biennium. So they would have to wait until at least July 1st of 2021 to get funding, if the funding is available then. And that's if we've gotten all our ducks in a row. And we meet a certain funding criteria. So, but I will keep you updated on how the bill's going through the House.
Yeah, and I think that, certainly we always say that we always assume that the new rules and the new program we've seen is the passing may or may not be as well. Could be better, could be worse, could be different. And I know I will be speaking with Aaron and others as well about this 2-year biennium setup and how it does put certain districts at a better disadvantage. As I said, it does, we'll just have to follow the news. I think people need to obviously be politically active, but if they believe that building aid is important. Very quickly, there's no request in this budget for putting money back into these 2 reserve funds. Real quickly, to report on the status of those funds, we have about $878,000 in those funds at present, although we've already spent some of that, as you'll see. We will be withdrawing from the facilities fund of $20,000, up to $20,000 for the academy windows. That actually won't be quite that high because we're not going to spend the full $100,000 we were allotted. Facilities capital reserve, we have a few items on there. This could go on and on ever. You know, $150,000 looks like a good healthy balance. You start looking at this list. There's some things we've been putting off for a while. We can't continue to put off. We're going to have to spend some money on Lakeway. Regardless, we do have issues there with certain ceilings or certain roofs. That's only one of a couple that need to be replaced in the near future. We continue to spend a little bit every year, bit by bit, to remove all the remaining asbestos tile in this building. And there's some safety issues. Mulch at the Lakeway playground. This is not for aesthetics. It's for safety. Mulch is required for playground areas. School equipment capital reserve fund. Right now, one of the things committed out of those funds is air conditioning for this part of our facility. There's 6 such units on this particular campus, this particular building. This is the second of the 6 now that we replaced. So we're assuming that the other 4 are just kind of waiting, kind of like those unit ventilators were, Crystal. So we'll have to, in future budgets, if not before, have to possibly address these kinds of expenditures as well for the other remaining 4 units. Equipment capital reserve, possible expenditures. At some point, we're going to have to look carefully at the bus, Brenda's bus. We use to transport students throughout the town during the day, special needs students. It could be a purchase, it could be some kind of a lease to keep costs down, perhaps maybe some type of an arrangement with our current transportation provider even, but we do know we do have some concerns there in the future. Hugh Gallen, again, has a significant cash balance built up, and this goes back a few years ago when the surcharge was 25%. That's not the case anymore. There's a surcharge of 3%. And those funds were raised from a variety of sources, but including our Region 3 partners over in the regional and SAU 35. We have spent some funds this year already out of that account. Upgrades for the equipment, specifically computers, but a few other items for classrooms. Okay, real quickly, these are drafts. They're not official. They're subject to legal review by DRA, and then finally board approval. This is our operating budget. And you'll see, again, slight difference with the default budget. The default budget is a little bit less. This is the draft of the warrant that would be placed before you regarding Lakeway. This is the teacher's agreement. It was on the slide. I don't remember if I talked about it or not. One thing I do want to talk about this too is that I did mention health insurance going down. And it's a function of a lot of things. It's not just luck, though. I mean, there's always some luck with this. But a few years ago, the board and the teachers agreed to restructure the health insurance plan here, the program here. And it resulted in significant savings to the teachers and to the district. It also resulted in the teachers, the employees, I should say, taking on more of the risks. The recovery wasn't as good, at least as comprehensive and as cheap to the individuals as the previous one. Our employees took on more of the risk. All of our employees now have the same program through school care. All of our employees get the same set of benefits with insurance, regardless of what school they work in and what position they hold. But the net effect of that is, as you hear a lot, is consumer-driven healthcare plans. Consumer-driven plans mean that it's the person consuming the services has to shop around. It's in their best interest to shop around because they have higher deductibles. They're having to pay more. So we'll see how things go over time. But certainly, all we know is that our costs are going down. And trust me, it's not because the insurance companies like us. It's because we're costing them less money here in Silver. The costs of the increases in the two years of the negotiated agreement. And then finally, what is the combined cost of what we talked about tonight. General fund budget is 23 cents on the tax rate. The teachers agreement is 15, and then Lakeway, again, based on this number again, this is borrowing $900,000 at 3%, paying it out over 5 payments, comes up to 62 cents effect on the tax rate based on the current town valuation. Next year, these two warrant articles, the costs on the tax rate, again, the 24 cents to pay the cost is for that, and then the negotiated agreement. And finally, there are part of the March voting. Two school board positions are open, as is moderator, school district clerk, and the treasurer. They're the candidacy filing dates, January 23, February 1. Pat, anything you need to say about that process? Any questions anybody might have? If you do, please contact Patty. Again, more information, contact us at the school. The delivery session is the 6th of February. We're going to have another one of these before then, by the way, as we saw tonight. So I did want to put that out there. Again, please visit our website for ongoing information about our budget, Lakeway, and other things. Any questions? Wait time. Okay, thank you for coming out on a very cold night. And again, notice will be given to the continuation of both of these meetings, these hearings. We'll be watching for that, and we'll see you back in a few weeks if not before. Thank you.
I'll consider this meeting closed. Thank you.